ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وبعد، حياكم الله يا طلاب العلم بكندا، وأسأل الله الكريم رب العرش العظيم أن يفتح علي وعليكم فتحا مبينا في العلم النافع والعمل الصالح والإخلاص فيهما والصواب. السؤال 14 بعد 100: ما مراد من جعل من أهل الحديث المرفوع في مقابلة المرسل؟ وما مراده بالمرفوع؟ الأصل في الحديث المرفوع هو ما رفعه راويه إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من قوله أو فعله، مثل المسند وهو ما أسنده راويه إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من قوله أو فعله. الجواب: ومراده قطعا بالمرفوع المتصل دون المنقطع. يعني إذا أطلق استعمال المرفوع عند أهل الحديث فإنهم يقولون هو ما أضيف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من قوله أو فعله، لكنهم قد يستعملونه مقرونا بغيره ويريدون ما هو يعني أخص من قضية الإضافة إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. قال مراده قطعا بالمرفوع المتصل دون المنقطع، لأنه ذكر في مقابل المرسل الذي هو من أنواع المنقطع. فإذا أضيف المرفوع وقوبل بالمرسل، المرسل ما رفع التابعي إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم وهو من أنواع المنقطع، والمتصل والمرفوع ما أضيف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. فالمرفوع قد يكون متصلا وقد لا يكون متصلا، لكنه إذا وضع في مقابل المرسل فقيل هذا حديث مرفوع وهذا حديث مرسل، فإن المراد على ما عرف من استعمال علماء الحديث المراد به المضاف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم مع اتصال سنده. أي قرينة بين أيدينا تجعلنا نحمل هذا على هذا التأويل؟ لأنه ذكر في مقابل المرسل الذي هو من أنواع المنقطع. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وبعد. The Sheikh Hafidullah, he started this 11th lecture in the series of lectures in explaining his book, in which he summarized the book مقدمة من الصلاح علوم الحديث وإمام ابن صلاح into Q&A format by welcoming all of the students in the Faculty of Hadith of Toronto back to the series of lectures and making dua for them that Allah Ta'ala blesses them with beneficial knowledge and righteous actions and grants them understanding in this blessed science of ilm al-hadith, ulum al-hadith. The Shaykh Hafidullah, he started with where we left off in the previous lecture, which is question number 114 from this book, in which the question says that some or the scholars of hadith, then they mention the terminology of al-marfu' in presence of the terminology of al-mursal. They mention the terminology marfu' along with the terminology of mursal. So what do they mean by marfu here? Is it the general terminology of marfu, the general meaning of this terminology, or do they mean a specific meaning? The answer to this question is that when they mention the terminology of marfu along with the terminology of mursal, in the presence of the terminology of mursal, they mean by it that which is muttasil, that which is with a connected chain, because it has been mentioned in presence of the terminology of al-mursal. Al-mursal, which is from the types of al-munqati', which is from the types of the hadith that is with a broken chain. The Shaykh Hafidhullah, he mentioned that the foundation, the general terminology of marfu is that which is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from his statements or his actions, regardless of if it was muttasil or not, regardless of if the chain was connected or not. As long as the chain of narration ends upon the authority of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it is a marfu hadith. But when it is mentioned in presence of the terminology of mursal, then the scholars of hadith, they mean a specific meaning, which is that it contains the condition of ittisal, the condition of connectivity, that this marfu hadith, it is with a connected chain, and the proof of that is that it is mentioned along with, in the presence of the terminology of mursal, in which there's a broken chain, in which, as we have covered, it is that which the tabi'i ascribes to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which there's a break in the chain. So when marfu is mentioned along with mursal in the presence of it, it means that which is muttasil, that which is with a connected chain. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال الخامس عشر بعد 100: ما هو تعريف الموقوف؟ الجواب هو ما يروى عن الصحابة من أقوالهم أو أفعالهم، فيوقف عليهم رضي الله عنهم ولا يتجاوز به إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. نعم.
Then the Shaykh Hafidhullah, he moved on to the next question, which is question number 115, in which now, after finishing the type and the terminology of al-marfu and that which is connected to it from the terminologies that we studied of al-muttasil and al-musnad and the details regarding these terminologies, now we move on to the next terminology, which is the terminology of al-mawquf. Al-mawquf. So the question says that what is the definition of the terminology of mawquf, of a hadith that is mawquf? The answer to this question is that it is that which is narrated and relayed upon the Sahaba radiallahu anhum ajma'in from their statements and their actions, in which the chain of narration stops. It stops at a Sahabi from the Sahaba, and it does not go past it. It is not raised to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, the chain of narration ends upon a Sahabi. It is a statement or action of one of the Sahaba. This is a mawquf hadith. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال السادس عشر بعد 100: هل يكون في الموقوف المتصل وغير المتصل؟ الجواب نعم، منه ما هو متصل ومنه ما ليس بمتصل كالمرفوع. يعني الموقوف كالمرفوع، ونعم قد يكون منه ما هو متصل في سنده وقد يكون منقطعا في سنده. ومثاله حديث مالك عن نافع عن عمر رضي الله عنه قال: إن أهم أمركم عندي الصلاة. هذا الأثر عن عمر يقول: إن أهم أمركم عندي الصلاة، موقوف. لكن إسناده هل هو متصل؟ إسناده هذا الذي ذكرته منقطع وليس بمتصل. لماذا منقطع؟ لأن نافعا لم يلق عمر رضي الله عنه. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidhullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 116. The question says that, does the mawquf hadith also contain that which is muttasil and not muttasil, that which is with a connected chain and that which is with a broken chain? The answer to this question is yes. From the mawquf hadith are that which are with a connected chain that fulfill the condition of ittisal, connectivity of the chain, and from it is that which is munqati', that in which there's a break in the chain. So it is similar to the marfu hadith, a marfu hadith. So it is not a condition that the mawquf hadith, that the chain be connected. Rather, one looks at where the chain ends. If it ends upon a sahabi from the sahaba, this is a mawquf hadith, regardless of if the chain was connected or not. An example of this is that which Imam Malik narrates on the authority of Nafi', on the authority of Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu, in which Umar, he said that the most important matter near me from the matters of the religion is the prayer. The most important matter of your matters near me is the salah, the prayer. This is a mawquf hadith. This is a statement of Umar ibn al-Khattab. But the chain of narration is broken. It is munqati. Why? Because Nafi', he never met Umar ibn al-Khattab. He did not hear any hadith from him, never met him. So this is a mawquf hadith, but with a broken chain. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال السابع عشر بعد 100. ما المراد باستعمال الموقوف مطلقا ومقيدا مع التمثيل؟ الجواب: استعمال الموقوف مطلقا بأن يقال موقوف بدون إضافة، ومقيدا بالإضافة كأن يقال حديث كذا وقفه فلان على عطاء أو على طاووس وهما تابعيان. فإذا أطلق الموقوف في الأعم الأغلب يراد به موقوف على الصحابي والصحابة، وإذا أريد غير الصحابي فإنهم يقيدون فيقولون وقفه فلان على عطاء، وعطاء من التابعين، أو وقفه فلان على طاووس ابن كيسان وهو من التابعين. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidhullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 117, in which the question says that what is meant by the scholars of hadith using this terminology of mawquf in its absolute sense and in its restricted sense, that there are two ways that they use this terminology: in the absolute unrestricted sense, and in the restricted sense mention this matter and with its examples. So the answer to this question is that the terminology of mawquf, when it is used unrestrictedly in its absolute sense, then the scholars of hadith, they just say mawquf without ascribing it to anybody. They will say this hadith is mawquf, this hadith is mawquf. And what they mean for the majority of the instances is that this hadith, the chain of narration, ends upon a sahabi from the sahaba. It is a statement and action of a sahabi from the sahaba. And in the restricted sense, then they will ascribe it to the one where the chain of narration ends. And this is used for those who are before the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, etc. From the Tabi'een, etc. So for example, they will say that this hadith, then so-and-so has done waqf of it, stopped the chain of narration upon Ata or upon Tawus ibn Kaysan, and both of them are from the Tabi'een. Both of them are from the Tabi'een. So if they rule upon hadith to be mawquf, if they use the terminology mawquf, the scholars of hadith, then what is meant in the majority of the cases is that it is a statement or an action of a sahabi from the sahaba. And if they want to use this terminology for someone before the sahaba, from the tabi'in, etc., then they will mention the restricted terminology. They will ascribe it to the one where the chain of narration ends. They will say that so-and-so from the scholars, he stopped this chain upon so-and-so from the tabi'in, mentioning their name, Ata or Tawus, etc. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 18 بعد 100. على ماذا يطلق فقهاء خراسان لفظة الأثر؟ الجواب: يطلقونه على الموقوف. الموقوفات يطلق عليها فقهاء خراسان لفظة الأثر والآثار، وهو اصطلاح مروي عن الإمام الشافعي. وممن استعمل لفظة الأثر على الموقوف من الشافعية المشهورين أبو القاسم عبد الرحمن ابن محمد، وهو من فقهاء خراسان من الشافعية، وله كتاب الإبانة في الفقه الشافعي، قد توفي سنة 61 و400. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafidhullah, he moved on to the next question. Question number 118 is that we have now another terminology that is connected to mawquf, which is al-athar. Al-athar. So the fuqaha of Khurasan, the scholars of Islamic jurisprudence in the region of Khurasan, in the eastern part of the Muslim world, then what do they use this terminology al-athar for? The answer to this question is that they use this terminology for the mawquf hadith, where the chain of narration ends upon a sahabi from the sahaba. So the scholars of Khurasan, the jurists of Khurasan, they use the terminology athar in place of the terminology of mawquf, or they use it for the hadith which is mawquf. And this terminology of athar, and its plural is athar, then it has been narrated upon Imam al-Shafi'i. Imam al-Shafi'i, we find in his speech that he has used this terminology of athar and athar for the mawquf ahadith. And from the scholars of Khurasan, from the jurists of Khurasan, who has used this terminology is Abu al-Qasim Abdul Rahman ibn Muhammad, who passed him in the year 461 after the Hijrah. He has a book, Al-Ibana, in which one will find this terminology, in which he used the terminology of Asar for the Mawquf Ahadith. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 19 بعد 100. عرف المقطوع. والحديث المقطوع هو النوع الثامن من أنواع علوم الحديث عند ابن الصلاح رحمه الله، وجمعه مقاطع ومقاطيع. الجواب: تعريف الاصطلاحي للمقطوع هو ما جاء عن التابعين من أقوالهم وأفعالهم موقوفا عليهم، من أقوالهم وأفعالهم موقوفا عليهم. ومن أقدم من عرفه هو الخطيب البغدادي رحمه الله تعالى، حيث قال كما نقل ذلك ابن الصلاح. ونعم، من الحديث المقطوع قال: والمقاطع هي الموقوفات على التابعين. الموقوفات، المقاطيع، يقول هي المقاطع هي الموقوفات على التابعين من أقوالهم أو أفعالهم. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then we move on to the next terminology in these terminologies and branches of the science of ulum al-hadith and mustala al-hadith, which is the 8 terminology and 8 type from the types of the science that Imam Ibn Salah has mentioned in his book Al-Muqaddimah or Ulum al-Hadith, which is the terminology of maqtu', the maqtu' hadith. So the question number 119, it says that mention the definition of maqtu', of this terminology maqtu', and what is a maqtu' hadith. The answer to this question is the maqtu' hadith is that hadith in which the chain of narration stops, ends upon a tabi'i from the tabi'in. It is a statement or an action from one of the tabi'in. This is the maqtu' hadith. And the earliest from the scholars of hadith who has defined the maqtu' hadith, then he is Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi rahimahullah, as has been relayed by Imam Ibn Salah in the same book, Ulum al-Hadith, Muqaddam Ibn Salah, in which he relayed his definition that the maqtu' hadith, and its plural is maqati' or maqati', that the maqati', the maqtu' ahadith, they are those ahadith that are mawqufat, in which the chain of narration stops upon the tabi'in from their statements or their actions. نعم شيخنا.
سؤال 20 بعد 100، لأنه قد يقع التباس بين المقطوع والمنقطع وخلط بينهما، لذلك وضعت هذا السؤال عقب السؤال 19 بعد 100 في تعريف المقطوع. هل المقطوع هو المنقطع؟ الجواب: هو غير المنقطع. فالمقطوع هو ما وقف على التابع من قوله أو فعله، وأما المنقطع كما مر بنا مرارا فهو الذي لم يتصل سنده بحال، لكن وجد التعبير بالمقطوع عن المنقطع كما سيأتي في السؤال التالي إن شاء الله. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the next question number 120, is that is the maqtu' hadith, this terminology is the same as the munqati' hadith? And the Shaykh Hafidhullah mentioned that this question has been mentioned because it might occur to some people, and it might cause confusion to them that these two terminologies, maqtu' and munqati', they are one and the same. So this is why this question has come: is the maqtu' terminology, the maqtu' hadith, the same as a munqati' hadith? the Shaykh Hafizullah, the answer to this question is that no, it is different. The maqtu hadith is different from a munqati hadith. These are two separate terminologies. The maqtu hadith, the maqtu terminology, as I had just preceded, it is that in which the chain of narration ends upon the tabi'een from their statements or their actions, regardless of if the chain was connected or not. As far as the munqati hadith, the munqati terminology, then it is regarding that hadith in which the chain of narration is not connected. The chain of narration is broken, is not connected, regardless of where the chain of narration ends upon the Prophet or Sahabi or the Tabi'i. The point is the chain of narration is not connected. But there are some scholars of hadith who have used these two terminologies in place of the other, as will come in the next question. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 21 بعد 100. هل وجد التعبير بالمقطوع عن المنقطع؟ الأصل إذا قيل مقطوع يعني موقوف على التابع من قوله أو فعله، وإذا قيل منقطع يعني هو ما لم يتصل بحالي، كما قال الناظم: وكل ما لم يتصل بحالي إسناده منقطع الأوصال. لكن من المصطلحات الخاصة في إطلاق أحد هذين المصطلحين على الآخر، وهذه الخصوصيات من الأهمية بمكان تعطي لطالب العلم يعني ملكة في معرفة التفريق بين هذه التي قد تطلق بعضها على البعض الآخر. السؤال 21 بعد 100. هل وجد التعبير بالمقطوع عن المنقطع؟ يعني أنا قلت أصل المقطوع غير المنقطع، لكن هل وجد التعبير بالمقطوع عن المنقطع؟ وبمن مثل ابن الصلاح؟ ومن العلماء عبر عن ذلك غير من ذكر ابن الصلاح؟ الجواب: نعم، وجد التعبير بالمقطوع عن المنقطع. الأصل أنهما مفترقان ونوعان مستقلان، لكن من العلماء من عبر بالمقطوع عن المنقطع، ومثل أبو عمرو بن الصلاح بالإمامين الشافعي والطبراني، الإمامين الإمام الشافعي وأبي القاسم الطبراني صاحب المعاجم، وغير من ذكر منهم الإمامان أبو بكر الحميدي والدار قطني، أبو بكر الحميدي والدار قطني. فهذا الاصطلاح الخاص معرفته تدفع عن الإنسان الخطأ، لأنه إذا وجد أحدنا في ألفاظ الشافعي يقول مقطوع، يعني يظن أنه موقوف، يريد الموقوف على التابع من قوله وفعله، وهو يريد ما حديثا لم يتصل إسناده. وهكذا ما يتعلق ب يعني المنقطع، فالمقطوع يعبر الشافعي والطبراني والحميدي والدار قطني يطلقون مقطوع ويريدون منقطع، يعني لم يتصل إسناده. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. So the next question, which is in continuation of the previous question, which is that once we establish that the maqtu' hadith, the maqtu' terminology is different from the munqati' hadith and the munqati' terminology, so this question comes 121, which says that are the scholars of hadith present who use these two terminologies in place of the other? Specifically, this question, it says that are scholars of hadith found who use the maqtu' terminology for the munqati' hadith? They use the terminology of maqtu' for that hadith that is not with a connected chain, and mention those scholars who use the maqtu' terminology for a munqati' hadith, as mentioned by Imam Ibn Salah in his book Al-Muqaddimah, and also other scholars who Imam Ibn Salah did not mention in his book. The Shaykh Hafizullah, he answered this question by saying that the foundation is that the maqtu' terminology, it is used for the hadith in which the chain of narration ends upon a tabi'i from his statements or his actions, and the munqati' terminology is for the hadith that is with a broken chain. But they are from the scholars of hadith who have used the maqtu' terminology for the munqati' hadith. So they mean by maqtu' that which is with a broken chain, that which is with a broken chain. So this terminology is found in the speech of some of the scholars of Hadith. The answer is that it is found in some of the speech of the scholars of Hadith. Imam ibn Salah mentioned examples of two scholars, and they are Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam al-Tabarani. Imam al-Shafi'i and Imam al-Tabarani, Imam Abu al-Qasim al-Tabarani, and the remaining two scholars that Imam ibn Salah did not mention, that can be added to these two scholars who use the maqtu terminology in place or for the hadith that is munqati, that is the broken chain, is Imam Abu Bakr al-Humaydi, Imam al-Humaydi, and Imam al-Daraqutni. Imam al-Daraqutni. And these specific terminologies and the usage of these terminology in the specific instances, they are very important for a student of knowledge and a student of this science, the student of hadith, to know, so that he does not fall into errors and mistakes in understanding the speech and the rulings of the scholars of hadith. So for example, when we find Imam al-Shafi'i saying and ruling upon a hadith that it is maqtur', it is maqtur'. So one does not necessarily derive from this that he means that in which the chain ends upon a tabi'i. It is a statement or a action of a tabi'i. Rather, he means that it is munqati'. It is the broken chain. It is the broken chain. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 22 بعد 100. ما حكم قول الصحابي كنا نفعل كذا أو كنا نقول كذا من حيث الرفع والوقف؟ الجواب: إن أضافه الصحابي إلى زمان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فهو من قبيل المرفوع. يعني إذا أضاف الصحابي قوله كنا نفعل كذا أو نقول كذا إلى زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، كأن يقول ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم بين أظهرنا، أو يقول الوحي ينزل على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم ونحو هاتين العبارتين، فهو من قبيل المرفوع. لكن إن لم يضفه، قال كنا نفعل كذا ولم يضف إلى زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، فهو من قبيل الموقوف. وقد تبع أبو عمرو بن الصلاح في هذا الرأي الخطيب البغدادي. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. The Sheikh Hafidullah then moved on to the next question number 122, that says that what is the ruling of the statement of a Sahabi if he says in a hadith that kunna naf'alu kaza or kunna naqulu kaza, that we used to do such and such or we used to say such and such. So what is the ruling of this statement? Is it from that which is marfu', that which is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or that which is mawquf, that which is from his own statement? His own statement, as there's no mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith except these words that kunna naf'alu kaza or kunna naqulu kaza, that we used to do such and such or we used to say such and such. The answer to this question is that if the Sahabi, when he mentions these words in the hadith, he mentions the statement, he ascribes it to the time and the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for example, he says kunna naf'alu kaza wa Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam bayna adhurina, that we used to do such and such and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was amongst us. Or he says, for example, kunna naqulu kaza wal wahi yanzilu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that we used to say such and such and the revelation was being still revealed upon Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if he ascribes to the era and the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it is a marfu hadith. It is a marfu. It has a ruling of being marfu, that which is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though there's no mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he said such and such or he did such and such. If it is ascribed to the era and the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has a ruling of being marfu. And if the Sahabi, he says these words that we used to say such and such, we used to do such and such, and he does not ascribe it to the life and the era of the Prophet ﷺ, then it is a mawquf hadith, that it is from the statements and the actions of the Sahabi themselves and not ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ. And this is the position of Imam ibn Salah, in which he has followed Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi. He has followed Imam al-Khatib al-Baghdadi regarding this matter. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 23 بعد 100. ما حكم قول الصحابي كنا لا نرى بأسا بكذا ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فينا أو بين أظهرنا، أو قوله رضي الله عنه كان يقال كذا على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، مع ذكر الدليل على ذلك. الجواب: كل تلك الألفاظ، يعني قول الصحابي كنا لا نرى بأسا بكذا ورسول الله فينا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، أو كان يقال كذا على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، من قبيل المرفوع، من قبيل المرفوع، لأنها أضيفت إلى زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. والدليل على ذلك أن كل تلك الصيغ مخرجة في كتب المسانيد، وكتب المسانيد هي الكتب التي أسندت فيها أحاديث إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، أسندت فيها الأحاديث إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من غير مراعاة لصحة أو ضعف. فقد يكون في كتب المسانيد أحاديث صحيحة، وقد يكون فيها أحاديث حسنة، وقد يكون فيها أحاديث ضعيفة. فكونهم يوردون هذه الألفاظ كنا لا نرى بأسا بكذا، وكان يقال كذا على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، يوجد نماذج وأمثلة ليست بالقليلة من هذه الاشتقاقات والأساليب، مخرجة في كتب المسانيد كمسند أحمد ومسند البزار ومسند أبي يعلى. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Sheikh, Hafidullah, he moved on to the next question, which is question number 123, in which the question says that what is the ruling of a Sahabi, his statement, in which he says that كُنَّا لَا نَرَى بَأْسًا بِكَذَا وَرَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ فِينَا, that we did not used to see any problem with such and such matter, and the Prophet ﷺ was amongst us. Or his statement, a statement of a Sahabi, in which he says that كان يقال كذا على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, that it used to be said such and such upon the era, during the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what is the rulings of these statements, and mention the proof of this matter? The answer to this question is that all of these statements, then they are from the angle, they are from marfu ahadith. They are those that are ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu as a Sahabi. He says that we used to not view any problem with such and such matter, or such and such used to be said, and the Prophet ﷺ was amongst us. Or he ascribes it to the era and the life of the Prophet ﷺ, and this is why they have the ruling of being marfu', ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ. And the proof of this is that these types of wordings of with these ahadith, with these wordings, they're found in the books of al-Masanid, the books of al-Masanid. The Masanid, then they are books that mention the ahadith that are musnad, in which the chain ends upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the scholars of hadith that authored the books upon Masanid, when they mention these ahadith, these words that do not have explicitly the wordings that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said such and such, or he did such and such, but they are ascribed to the era of the Prophet ﷺ, or that he was amongst them, and they have mentioned it in their book of al-Musnad, then it is a proof that they have given it the ruling of being marfu', given it the ruling of being ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ. And there are several examples that one can find of these ahadith with these wordings in the books of al-Masani, such as Musnad Ahmad and Musnad al-Bazzar and Musnad Abi Ya'la, etc. But they do not mean, it does not mean necessarily that these ahadith are authentic, because the Musnad ahadith, their condition is not to just mention authentic, sahih, sihah, from the books of sihah, authentic ahadith. They could be sahih ahadith, they could be hasan, they could be da'if, weak. But their condition is to mention that which is has the ruling of marfu, that which is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Naam, Shaykhana.
السؤال الرابع والعشرون بعد 100: ما رأي الحاكم رحمه الله تعالى في حكم قول المغيرة بن شعبة رضي الله عنه: كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقرعون بابه بالأظافر. وأين ذكر رأيه هذا؟ الجواب: الحاكم يرى أن هذا القول كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم من المغيرة بن شعبة يقرعون بابه، أي باب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، بالأظافر. يرى الحاكم أن هذا ليس بمسند، بل هو موقوف، وذكر ذلك في كتابه معرفة علوم الحديث. علماء الحديث لهم فقه بالأسانيد والمتون، ومن ذلك أنهم حين ذكروا أن الصحابي إذا أضاف القول إلى زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم فإنه يكون من قبيل المرفوع، لكنهم يفقهون، ومن فقههم أنهم يدركون أنه ليس كل ما ذكر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم في أثر يكون ذلك الأثر على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، أو هو حي بين أظهرهم، أو الوحي ينزل عليه في تلك الفترة. ومن ذلك قول حديث المغيرة بن شعبة، قال: كان أصحاب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يقرعون بابه بالأظافر، يعني حين كانوا يستأذنون على رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كانوا يقرعون بابه بالأظافر، وذلك من شدة تأدبهم، فما كانوا يضربون بالحجارة ولا يطرقون بابه طرقا يؤدي إلى الإخلال بأدب الاستئذان وأدبهم المطلوب منهم مع رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. فالذي يرى ويسمع هذا بذكر باب رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم قد يقول: لعل هذا يكون ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم حي بين أظهرهم. هذا محتمل، لكن أيضا الاحتمال الآخر وارد، وهو أن هذا قد يكون القرع للباب بالأظافر قد يكون بعد وفاة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. والذي رجحه الحاكم في كتابه معرفة علوم الحديث، وهو من أحسن ما ألف في علوم الحديث ومصطلحه، أن هذا ليس بمسند، بل هو موقوف. والحديث استدركه مغلطاي، وهو محدث فقيه حنفي، استدركه مغلطاي في كتاب صلاح بن الصلاح، وأنه رآه عن أنس، ولا تعارض، فالأثر هذا مروي عن أنس ومروي عن المغيرة ابن شعبة كما رواه البخاري في كتاب الأدب المفرد. نعم.
Assalamualaikum ilaykum. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah, he moved on to the next question, which is question number 124, in which the questioner, the question says that what is the opinion of Imam al-Hakim rahimahullah regarding the hadith of al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiyallahu anhu, in which he said that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they used to gently scratch or rub his door with their nails. So what is the position and opinion of Imam al-Hakim regarding this hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah, and where did he mention this position? The answer to this question is that Imam al-Hakim rahimahullah, he views this hadith to not be a marfu hadith, rather he views it to be a mawquf hadith, hadith, and he has mentioned this position of his in his book Ma'rifat Ulum al-Hadith. The Shaykh Hafizullah, he mentioned that the scholars of hadith, then they have great understanding and brilliance in the chains of narrations of the ahadith and their texts, in the asanid and the mutun, in the chains and the text. So they give every hadith its due right and position, and they understand every single hadith, its chains of narrations and its wordings. So even though what has preceded is that which Sahabi, he ascribes to the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the Prophet sallallahu was amongst them, or that the wahi, the revelation, was still being revealed upon him, that it is from the ruling of that which takes the ruling of marfu', that is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Even with this, they have fiqh, they have understanding in the text and the chains of narrations of a hadith. The Sahaba, Mughir ibn Shu'bah, he mentions here that they, out of this severe respect and honor and manners with the Prophet ﷺ, that they did not use to knock on his door with force, nor would they beat his door or hit it with rocks and stones, etc. Rather, they would gently scratch it, they would gently rub it with their nails. So this statement, then it could have been during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, when he was alive amongst them, that they would do so during his lifetime. This is a possibility. Also, there's a possibility that this might have been after his death, that the Sahaba, they would gently rub his door with their nails to seek permission to enter upon the Ummahat al-Mu'mineen after his death, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is why Imam al-Hakim, in his book Ma'rifat Ulum al-Hadith, he has mentioned this hadith as an example of a mawquf hadith and not a marfu hadith. And this book, Ma'rifat Ulum al-Hadith, the Sheikh mentioned that it is one of the best books that has been authored in the science of Ulum al-Hadith, Mustala al-Hadith. And he also mentioned another benefit, which is that Imam Mughlatai, in his book Islah ibn Salah, in which he critiqued and corrected some of the statements and positions of Imam ibn Salah in this book, Muqaddam ibn Salah Ulum al-Hadith, he critiqued him regarding this matter, and he said that this hadith is also narrated upon Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, that as if to say that it's a marfu hadith. But the Shaykh Hafidullah, he mentioned that there's no difference in this matter, regardless of if it is narrated on Mughira ibn Shu'bah or Anas ibn Malik or other than them from the Sahaba, as has come in the book Al-Adab al-Mufrad of Imam al-Bukhari, all of them, then there's still a chance that the Sahaba, they did this and the Prophet ﷺ had passed away. It was after his death, so it has the ruling of being a mawquf hadith. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 25 بعد 100. ما موقف ابن الصلاح؟ ونقرأ 26 أيضا بعد 100. السؤال 25 بعد 100. ما موقف ابن الصلاح رحمه الله من رأي الحاكم هذا في قول المغيرة بن شعبة كانوا يقرعون بابه صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم بالأظافر؟ ما موقف ابن الصلاح من رأي الحاكم هذا؟ ابن الصلاح خالف الحاكم في رأيه هذا، وهو أنه لم يعده ضمن المسند، بل هو موقوف. خالفه ابن الصلاح، فقعد ابن الصلاح رأي الحاكم هذا من المؤاخذات عليه، ثم تأول له بأنه أراد ليس بمسند لفظا، وصححوا العبارة القادمة: أراد ليس بمسند لفظا بل وليس له، بل هو موقوف لفظا. نعم، اللفظ ليس بمسند وهو موقوف في ظاهر لفظه، لكنه مرفوع من حيث المعنى، مرفوع من حيث المعنى. وهذا الذي رجحه ابن الصلاح في قول المغيرة بن شعبة السابق. وسبب ذلك قال لكونه أحرى باطلاعه صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، يعني كانوا يقرعون باب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم بالأظافر. يقول يعني مثل هذا بهذا الأسلوب يدل على أن النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كان موجودا وكان يقرهم على ما يصنعون، يعني بكونه أحرى باطلاعه، أي من مجرد ما تقدم من الصيغ، كقولهم كنا نرى، يعني كنا نرى إذا أضيف إلى النبي كما تقدم معنا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كان مرفوعا. فمثل هذا كانوا يقرعون بابه بالأظافر، يعني الذي يرجحه ابن الصلاح بأن ذلك أحرى بأن يطلع النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. وقولي وعلله أي ذكر سببه بكونه أحرى باطلاعه صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، والله أعلم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah, he moved on to the next two questions, question number 125 and 126, in which the question 125, it says that, what is the position of Imam Ibn Salah, rahimahullah, regarding this position of Imam al-Hakim that has preceded? The answer to this question is that Imam Ibn Salah, he critiqued Imam al-Hakim regarding his position, that this hadith of al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah, radiallahu anhu, that he ruled upon it to be not a musnad, a marfu hadith, rather to be a mawquf hadith. So Imam Ibn Salah opposed and critiqued Imam al-Hakim regarding this position. And he says regarding this matter that what Imam al-Hakim, in defense of him, or to make an exit for him, Imam al-Hakim, his position, he says that what he means is that this is not a musnad, a marfu hadith in its apparent wording, that there's no mention of the Prophet ﷺ saying such and such or doing such and such, etc. Even though the apparent wording, it is not musnad marfu, but it has the ruling of being the wording is mawquf in its apparent wording, but it has the ruling of being marfu. It has the ruling of being marfu, ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is in its apparent state mawquf in its wording, but it has the ruling of being marfu. The next question, 126, it says that what is the position of Imam ibn Salah, and that he deemed the correct position regarding this hadith of Mughira ibn Shu'bah radiallahu anhu that has preceded, and what is his proof for it? What is his proof for it? The answer to this question is that Imam ibn Salah, opposing Imam al-Hakim, he deemed this hadith to be marfu'. He deemed this hadith to be a marfu' hadith. And the reasoning of the proof is that he says that this wording that the Sahaba, they used to scratch gently with their nails the door of the Prophet ﷺ, then it is in the case when the Prophet ﷺ was alive, when he was alive, to seek permission to enter upon him. And the Prophet ﷺ, he would hear this, or he did not critique them or correct them regarding this matter, that he remained silent upon this matter of them seeking permission to enter in such a manner. So this is his proof for drilling upon this hadith to be a marfu hadith. Just as has preceded with us, when the Sahabi, he would say that kunna nara, that we used to view such and such, and the Prophet ﷺ was amongst us. This has the ruling of being a marfu hadith. Similarly, in this instance, that they would scratch his door gently, and the Prophet ﷺ remained silent. He did not correct them regarding this matter. So it has the ruling of being marfu ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Naam Shaykhana.
السؤال 27 بعد 100. ما حكم قول الصحابي أمرنا بكذا أو نهينا عن كذا أو من السنة كذا كذا مع ذكر مثال؟ الجواب: حكم قول الصحابي في الأمثلة والنماذج المتقدمة أنه من نوع المرفوع. قول الصحابي أمرنا بكذا من نوع المرفوع، وقول الصحابي نهينا عن كذا من نوع المرفوع، أو قول الصحابي من السنة كذا من نوع المرفوع. من نوع المرفوع والمسند، يعني المضاف إلى النبي صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عند أصحاب الحديث. ومثاله قول أنس رضي الله عنه: أمر بلال أن يشفع الأذان ويوتر الإقامة. وتأويل الكلام وتقديره: أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم بلالا أن يشفع الأذان، يعني أن يجعله شفعا، ويوتر الإقامة. والحديث متفق عليه، وهذا هو الراجح في هذا الباب. وخالف في ذلك من العلماء أبو بكر الإسماعيلي وأبو الحسن الكرخي الحنفي. والمخالفات أو الخلافيات الموجودة فيما اتفق عليه المحدثون من مسائل في علوم الحديث تفيدنا عندما نمر على آرائهم، فنعرف أنهم يعني قد تفردوا بذكر آراء على خلاف المتفق عليه عند جمهور أصحاب الحديث. نعم.
أحسن الله عليك. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah, he moved on to the next question, which is question number 127, which is another type of wording that occurs in the ahadith in which there's no explicit mention of the Prophet ﷺ that he did such and such or he said such and such. And what is the ruling of this wording? And it is the wording in which the Sahabi, he says, Umirna bi kadha, that we were ordered with such and such, or nuhina an kadha, that we were forbidden from such and such. In the third party, in the third party, that we were ordered with such and such, or we were forbidden from such and such. Or he says min as-sunnati kadha, that from the sunnah is such and such. So there's no explicit mention of the Prophet ﷺ in these wordings. So what is the ruling of these ahadith? The answer to this question is that the ruling of these ahadith near the scholars of hadith is that these ahadith take the ruling of being a marfu hadith, a marfu musnad hadith, that which is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam. An example of it is the statement of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu, a hadith that has been relayed by Imam Bukhari and Muslim in the Sahihain, that he says that Umira Bilalun, that Bilal was ordered to repeat the statements of the Adhan twice and to say the Iqamah, the statements of the Iqamah only once. And this hadith, as we just heard, it says Umira Bilal, that Bilal in the third party, that he was ordered. And what is meant here is that Amara Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam Bilalan, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he is the one who ordered Bilal. So it has the ruling, these wordings, Umirna bikadha, nuhina an kadha, min as-sunnati kadha, that they have the ruling of being marfu'. They have the ruling of being ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is not explicitly mentioned in them. This is the correct position. The Shaykh Hafizullah mentioned this is the correct position, even though some of the scholars of hadith, they opposed in this matter, such as Imam Abu Bakr al-Ismaili and Abu al-Hasan al-Karhi from the Hanafi scholars. They opposed and ruled upon these ahadith with these statements to be mawquf. And the Shaykh mentioned that this shows us that the scholars of hadith, some of them also have some positions that are in opposition to the majority position in these matters. So the student of knowledge should have knowledge of these positions. نعم شيخ.
ذكرت أن الحنفية أو بعض الحنفية من علماء الحنفية، بعضا من علماء الحنفية يخالفون في مسألة قول الصحابي أمرنا بكذا ونهينا عن كذا، فلا يعدونه من ضمن المرفوع. وذكرت أن منهم أبا الحسن الكرخي، لكن لكل ساقطة لاقطة. من محدثي وفقهاء الحنفية مغلطاي رحمه الله خالف الحنفية في هذا، وهو حنفي. قال لم يتأمر في حديث أمر بلال، قال لم يتأمر على بلال غير سيدنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، فجزمنا بأنه الآمر. قال وإن خالف في ذلك بعض الحنفية فلا عبرة بخلافه، وهو حنفي رحمه الله تعالى، لكنه منصف يرجح بالدليل. نعم.
أحسن الله عليكم. The Shaykh Hafizullah, he added a benefit that he just mentioned, that from the scholars who opposed in this majority position that these terminologies umirna bi kada wa nuhina an kada, that we were ordered with such and such and we were forbidden with such and such, that it has a ruling of being marfu. From them is the Hanafi scholar Abu al-Hasan al-Karhi, But from the Hanafis themselves, there are those scholars who agreed with the majority position. They agreed with the majority position. So from them is Mughalatai. He opposed the Hanafis, or some of the Hanafis, or in this matter. So he said regarding this hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, that Bilal was ordered to repeat the statements of the Adhan twice and to say the Iqamah once. He says that no one in the lifetime of Bilal radiallahu anhu had authority to order him except the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So without a doubt, the one who ordered him with this is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even though some of the my companions from the Hanafis, they have opposed regarding this matter. So he himself opposed the Hanafis in this matter, and he was just in siding with the Jamhur, with the majority in this matter. نعم شيخنا.
السؤال 28 بعد 100. ما الحكم في قول الصحابي من السنة كذا؟ إذا قال الصحابي من السنة كذا مع التعليل، يعني ذكر السبب، وهل يوجد فرق في إطلاق هذا اللفظ وأمثاله في زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أو بعد زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم؟ الجواب: الحكم في قول الصحابي من السنة كذا أنه مسند مرفوع، وسبب الحكم على هذا بأنه مسند مرفوع لأن الظاهر أنه لا يريد، إذا قال الصحابي من السنة، أنه لا يريد إلا سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. وهل يوجد فرق بين زمن رسول الله إطلاق ذلك الكلام من الصحابي من السنة كذا على عهد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أو بعد زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم؟ تكملة الجواب: لا فرق في إطلاقه زمن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم أو بعده، ما دام قال الصحابي من السنة كذا وهو يريد سنة رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. Then the Sheikh Hafizullah moved on to the next question, question number 128, which is regarding the wordings that has been mentioned, min as-sunnati kaza, that the Sahabi, he says that from the Sunnah is such and such, without explicitly mentioning the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith. So what is the ruling of this statement of a Sahabi, min as-sunnati kaza, and mention the proof for this matter? And is there a difference in this wordings, min as-sunnati kaza, that from the Sunnah is such and such, if the Sahabi were to ascribe it to the life and the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or to the era that is after him, after his death sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The answer to this question is that when a Sahabi, he says this wordings, min as-sunnati kaza, from the Sunnah is such and such, it has the ruling of being marfu', it has the ruling of being ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the proof of this is that the Sahabi, the Sahaba in their parent state, they do not mean Sunnah except the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When they say Sunnah of so and so, they mean the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that which is obligatory for one to obey and to follow. This is what they mean in the apparent state. And there's no difference between the Sahabi ascribing it to the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his era, or to after his death sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If he says min as-sunnah, from the Sunnah is such and such, then it has the ruling of being marfu', that is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, regardless of if he ascribed it to the lifetime, the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that min as-sunnati kaza ala ahdi Rasulillah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he says from the Sunnah is such and such, was from such and such from in the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or he does not. All of them have the ruling of being marfu', ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. نعم شيخنا.
سؤال 29 بعد 100. هل يعد تفسير الصحابي حديث مسند؟ هذا من المسائل المهمة، لأنه قد يقع خلط بين تفسير وبين إضافة هذا التفسير للصحابي كأنه حديث عن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، ولذلك ينبغي التنبه لمثل هذا. هل يعد تفسير الصحابي حديث مسند؟ بين ذلك مع ذكر مثال. الجواب: يعد تفسير الصحابي حديثا مسندا إذا كان في تفسير يتعلق بسبب نزول آية. مثاله قول جابر رضي الله عنه: كانت اليهود تقول من أتى امرأته من دبرها في قبلها جاء الولد أحول، فأنزل الله عز وجل: نساؤكم حرث لكم فأتوا حرثكم أن شئتم. نعم.
Ahsanallahu ilaykum. The Sheikh, Hafizullah, then he moved on to the next question, which is question number 129. And he said that this is a very important question in which not understanding this question or grasping it properly causes one to fall into errors and mistakes. The question says that it's a tafsir of a Sahabi. It's a tafsir of a Sahabi in which he mentions the exegesis or explanation of an ayah from the Quran. Is this considered a musnad hadith? This is a marfu hadith that is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. His explanation of an ayah from the ayat of the Quran and mention an example of this. The answer to this question is that the tafsir of a Sahabi, then it is considered a musnad, a marfu hadith that is ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam if it was that tafsir that contains sabab al-nuzul, the cause of revelation of this ayah. If this hadith in which there's no explicit mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in which the Sahabi, he explains ayah from the ayat, performs tafsir of it, if this hadith contains sabab al-nuzul of this ayah, or it contains the cause of revelation of this ayah, then it has a ruling of being marfu'. It has a ruling of being marfu' because there's no way that he could have taken and known of this cause of revelation except from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And an example of this is the statement of Jabir radiallahu anhu, his hadith, in which he said, and there's no explicit mention of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam in this hadith, that he said that the Yahud, they used to say that the one who has intercourse with his wife from the backside, then if she was to give birth to a child, then the child will be ahwal, meaning that his eyes would be pointing in the opposite directions. So Allah tabarak wa ta'ala, he revealed this ayah, that your women, they are, you have a right over them, so have intercourse with them however you please. Even though there's no explicit mention of the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith, but because it contains sabab al-nuzul as to why this ayah and the cause and the reason for the revelation of this ayah, it has a ruling of being marfu' ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. نعم شيخنا.
طيب، السؤال الأخير وبه نختم هذا المجلس إن شاء الله، وهو 30 بعد 100. ما حكم سائر تفاسير الصحابة التي لا تشتمل على إضافة شيء إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم كتفسير يتعلق بسبب بالنزول آية مثلا؟ الجواب هو من قبيل المرفوع، نعم، معدود أو معدودة في الموقوفات. ما حكم سائر تفاسير الصحابة التي لا تشتمل على إضافة شيء إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم؟ الجواب معدودة في الموقوفات وليست في المرفوعات. ومن اللطائف هنا أن الحافظ ابن حجر يعطي حكم الرفع ما كان مما لا مجال للاجتهاد فيه، ما كان مما لا مجال للاجتهاد والرأي فيه. ومثاله كقول أبي هريرة: نساء كاسيات عاريات لا يدخلن الجنة، نساء كاسيات عاريات لا يدخلن الجنة. فهذا مما لا مجال للاجتهاد فيه، فله حكم الرفع، والله أعلى وأعلم.
Ahsanallahu ilaykum. Then the Shaykh Hafizullah, he moved on to the next question, question number 130, and he said that with this we'll finish this gathering inshallah. The question says that what is the ruling of the remaining tafasir of the Sahaba in which they have explained an ayah from the ayat of the Quran in which there's no sabab al-nuzul, there's no cause of revelation that's mentioned, and it is not ascribed to the life of the Prophet or the era of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The answer to this question is that these tafasir of the Sahaba in which there's explanation of ayah from the ayat and there's no cause of revelation mentioned or is ascribed to the era and the lifetime of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it has a ruling of being mawquf. It is a ruling of being mawquf, that this is from the explanations of the Sahaba, and it does not have the ruling of being ascribed to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the Shaykh Hafizullah, he finished by adding a benefit that Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani rahimahullah, he, from the matters that he deemed to take the ruling of being marfu from those statements of the Sahaba in which there's explicit mention. There's no explicit mention of the Prophet ﷺ, but it has the ruling of being marfu as if it is ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ, is those matters in which there's no mala majal lil-ijtihad wal ra'i fi, in which there's a hadith, a sahabi, he says a statement, a hadith, in which there's no chance of personal opinion and judgment, in which there's no chance of personal opinion of ijtihad and ra'i, personal opinion and judgment. An example of this is the hadith of Abu Huraira radiallahu anhu, in which he says, there's no mention of the Prophet ﷺ in this hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said. Rather, he said that there will be women who will come near the end of times that will be clothed, yet they will be naked. They will not enter paradise. They will not enter paradise. So this hadith, it has the ruling of being marfu'. It has a ruling of being ascribed to the Prophet ﷺ, because there's no chance of personal opinion and judgment in this matter, that these women, they will enter the hellfire. It's from the matters of the unseen. Abu Huraira must have taken it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And with this we'll end this sitting inshallah. نشكركم شكرا جزيلا شيخنا على ما قدمتم وذكرتم وأفدتم. هناك بعض الأسئلة نطرحها عليكم لو سمحتم.
نعم.
سائل يسأل يقول حديث أنس رضي الله عنه عن أمر بلال أن يشفع الأذان ويوتر الإقامة. هذا الحديث قد رواه النسائي بلفظ أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم أمر بلالا، أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم بلالا. فهل جمع طرق الحديث وجمع ألفاظ الحديث يساعد في تحديد مثلا هذه المسائل؟ وهل لم يبلغ هذه الرواية وهذا اللفظ للحنفية الذين خالفوا في هذه المسألة وجعلوه من الموقوف؟
نعم، بلا ريب أن ثمة قرائن وضوابط تضبط هذه المسائل وهذه الألفاظ، ومن أبرزها جمع روايات الحديث الواحد في مكان واحد، فبه يتم أمران كما قال علي بن المديني رحمه الله تعالى: الباب إذا لم تجمع طرقه لم تعرف علته. وقال أيضا: الباب إذا لم تجمع طرقه لم نكد نفقهه. أقول: ومن فقهه فيما يتعلق بهذه المسائل أن ما أطلق يقيد بما قيد منها، ومنها حديث بلال رضي الله عنه، وأن ذلك قد قيد بالرواية التي ذكرها السائل وعزاها للنسائي. فمثل هذا يتحتم حمل المطلق على المقيد وحمل المجمل على المفسر لبيان وإدراك فقه تلكم المصطلحات. نعم.
أحسن الله إليكم. The questioner, he says that the hadith of Anas radiallahu anhu, in which Bilal radiallahu anhu, he was ordered to perform the azan twice, repeating the sentences twice, and the iqama once. He said, the questioner says that we find in a narration of this hadith in Sunan Nasa'i that it is explicitly mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ ordered Bilal with this. Amara Rasulullah ﷺ Bilal, and that the Prophet ﷺ ordered Bilal. So is this a way that one can reach a definite conclusion regarding these matters in these ahadith in which there might be some ambiguity? And did this hadith not reach, or this wording and this narration not reach the Hanafis? The Sheikh, Hafidullah, he mentioned the answer to this question by saying, without a doubt, they are qara'in and rules and regulations and matters that are connected to the ahadith that helps one, a student of knowledge, a student of hadith, in solving these ambiguous matters and reaching definite knowledge and correct position in these matters. From the most important of these matters is collecting all of the chains of narrations and all of the wordings of this hadith in one place, all of the chains and wordings of a hadith in one place, as has been relayed on Imam Ali ibn al-Madini rahimahullah, that if you do not collect the chains of narrations of a hadith in one place, you will not catch the errors and mistakes that the narrators have performed in this hadith. You will not find the illah, the hidden defect in this hadith. This is pertaining to the chains of narrations. Also, he said that if you do not collect the wordings of this hadith from all of the sources in one place, you will not understand it. You will not understand it. So both the chains of narrations and the wordings, one reaches correct positions and definite knowledge by way of collecting all of the chains and the wordings of this hadith in one place. So the Sheikh mentioned that this narration in Sunan Nasai, as the questioner has mentioned, it without a doubt proves that the order was from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, leaving no ambiguity in this matter. And he said that this is in line with the principle of some of the scholars that the mutlaq, it is to be restricted, that which is unrestricted, with that which is restricted, and that which is general, then it is to be explained with that which is specific. حمل المطلق على المقيد والمجمل على المفسر, etc. These are some of the principles the scholars have mentioned based on these matters. سؤال آخر شيخنا يسأل السائل يقول قول الصحابي أمرنا بكذا قد يكون الآمر أحد الخلفاء الراشدين، مثلا لما أمر معاوية بن أبي سفيان رضي الله عنهما في زمن خلافته أن يخرج في زكاة فطر الشعير نصف الساع، فكيف نعامل مع مثل هذه الأحاديث؟
هذا الذي يقول يعني حديث معاوية يدل على هذا. يعني مهما عبر أحد الصحابة عن أنهم أمروا، قد يحتمل الأمر أن الآمر غير رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، لكن الإطلاق قد يفيد في الجملة، يفيد بلا ريب أن الآمر هو رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم. لكن قد يطرأ ورود مثل هذا في أن يكون الآمر هو أبو بكر، أو الآمر هو عمر، أو الآمر هو معاوية رضي الله عنهم أجمعين. هذا قد يرد، ولذلك وقع الخلاف في هذه المسألة. لكن الذي يتبادر إلى الذهن بادئ ذي بدء أن الصحابي إذا قال أمرنا فإنما يريد بالأمر والآمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم، فلا بد من تتبع والبحث عن القرائن والضوابط التي يضبط الإنسان بها هذا القول حتى يجزم بأن الذي أمر المراد به رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم لا غيره.
Sallallahu alaykum. The questioner, he says that what if someone says that when the Sahabi, he says his statement that umirna bikada, that we were ordered with such and such, what if someone says that this order was from a Khalifa from the Khulafa al-Rashideen, or one of the rulers of the Muslims, such as in the example of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhuma, in his rulership, when he ordered that half of a sa' of wheat be taken out as zakat al-fitr. The Shaykh Habibullah, he answered this question by saying that this example of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhuma, it gives proofs to what was mentioned in the class, that this is the apparent position. When the Sahabi, he says that we were ordered, then that which is apparent, that which comes first to mind, is that the order is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It has the ruling of being marfu'. It has a ruling of being marfu'. If he mentions it without restriction, that we were ordered in the third party, then that which comes to mind first is that this was the order of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And also there's a chance that the order could be from other than him, from the Khulafa al-Rashideen in their lifetime, such as order of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, or Umar ibn al-Khattab, or Uthman ibn Affan, or Ali bin Abi Talib, or Muawiyah, etc., as has been mentioned in the example. This is why the scholars of Hadith, then they have differed in this matter. But if the Shaykh mentioned, the majority position is that if it is mentioned in third party without restriction that we were ordered umirna bikadha, then that which comes to mind is that the order is from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is why it is very important for a student of knowledge, student of Hadith, to collect the chains of narration and the wordings of this hadith in one place, that he should exert himself more in these ahadith in which is ambiguity, there's a difference between the scholars of hadith in these matters. He should strive to collect the chains of narration, the wordings of this hadith from all of the sources, so that he reaches definite conclusion regarding these matters, and he reaches the correct position in these matters. نختم بهذا السؤال شيخنا. نسأل الله أن يتقبل ما قدمتم ويجعله في ميزان حسناتكم يوم القيامة، ونلقاكم بإذن الله في اللقاء القادم.
حياكم الله وبياكم، ووفقني الله وإياكم للعلم النافع والعمل الصالح. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
آمين وإياكم، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.